Hey everybody, it's Ade Shakoy here from Agile TV at the Agile Development and Better Software Conference East in Boston 2013, and right now it is cold, and apparently it's going to get colder in Boston, but by my accent you would thought I'm used to the cold, right? But it doesn't always go down like that. But anyway, enough about me. Right now I'm with Sanjiv Augustine.
Pleased to see you again, Ade.
Pleased to meet me. This, for those of you who might not, this is my, I'm like his young Padawan, right? He's my like Jedi Knight because he trained me as a Scrum Master, and also we've just been fortunate to allow me to do some co-training with him in regards to Scrum Master certification. But enough about that. For all those people out there who might not know who you are and all the work that you've been doing over the many years in the Agile community, do you want to just take a quick moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Thank you for the comment about being the Jedi Knight. I'm sure my son would appreciate that. He's 10 years old, and he's sort of in the Star Wars plateau. He's been a Star Wars fan for 5 years. So my name is Sanjiv Augustine. I'm the president of a product development and agile consulting company. It's called Lightspeed LLC. I've been in the field for over 20 years, about 22, 23 years, doing a number of different things. Worked in the advertising space, worked as an engineer, worked as a software developer, as a management consultant. And about 13 years or so ago, encountered XP and Scrum later on and got into the Agile space. Ended up writing a book, Managing Agile Projects. Check it out. It's especially useful, I believe, for project managers who are making the transition from traditional project management to Agile project management. And most recently, a lot of my work has been in combining and blending the techniques from lean startup and Agile delivery to generate what we call business agility. And of course, over the last 5 years, we've been helping a lot of organizations through our consulting work in scaling Agile across the enterprise.
Okay, so an interesting thing, maybe you'll be able to speak to this. In the work that I do out there working with a lot of organizations, it seems that over the last few years we've seen a lot of organizations attempting to become more agile. But as a result of that, we're seeing a lot of dysfunction. So you go into organizations, they might be doing a stand-up, which lasts maybe 45 minutes or something like that. They might be working in time box periods of 2 weeks, but nothing's really coming out of it. And in some ways, we're seeing a lot of dysfunctional applications of the Agile principles. And as a result, when things go wrong, Agile gets the blame. Are you seeing anything similar, and what do you think the root causes might be?
It's hard to pinpoint one root cause on just a sort of immediate first blush, if you will. But I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing there's a rush of people and organizations who are jumping onto the Agile bandwagon, if you will. So it's cool to be Agile. It's cool to be Agile, whether you're in the private sector or the public sector here in the US. The federal government has adopted Agile in a big way. And if you're in IT, in any part of the IT sector, in any sort of vertical, you're looking at this thing called Agile, and you're like, well, maybe I can jump on and be cool. So Agile is cool. There's a danger in that. There's a clear and present danger in that we start to see people adopt Agile without fully understanding the underlying mindset, the principles, and just mechanically go through the rote practices. You mentioned the daily stand-up, right? So daily stand-up has its roots in lean improvement, or the after-action review from, for example, that's an example from the defense industry, for example, where you get a short, a quick meeting, and there are precedents for how you do that meeting and how you want to communicate information as quickly as possible. If you're just mechanically going through the steps and answering, what did I do yesterday versus what did I do today, what's in the way, that's probably not what we want. And if we understand why we're doing it to quickly communicate information. We want the particular meeting to be run by the team. It's a meeting for the team, to be run by the team. And in fact, you don't even want to be able to either problem solve or report to management in that meeting. It's really a meeting for the team. So once we understand some of the fundamental principles and the mindset of the Agile, the underlying things under Agile, then we can address some of this dysfunction. If we just rush into Agile methods without understanding the why and just looking at what we're doing, then we lose the underlying principles and it becomes a mechanical interpretation. So I think a lot of dysfunctional Agile out there is a result of either the fad, Agile is a fad, it's a bandwagon I'm jumping on, Or even if people don't think so, it's a fad and are trying to apply it, they're getting stuck at the practice level and not getting down to the principles, if you will.
I mean, it's just so interesting to hear you talking about the mindset and the principles, and it seems that unfortunately, or fortunately for the companies that are doing it well, should we say, but unfortunately for those companies that are not doing it well, they seem to be getting really hung up with this whole process thing, and the principles and the mindset seem to get pushed aside if they even get any form of attention at all. But enough about the ones that are not doing Agile well. Let's talk about some of the companies that are seeing some success with their Agile application of Agile principles and using Agile in an organization. And as a result, they're at the point where they're growing, right? These are the companies that are becoming more mature. And at that state of maturity whereby it's worked at a team level and now they need to roll it out across the organization. And just like teenagers, when they reach a certain level of maturity, they start having their new set of challenges. These organizations are having challenges in regards to how they actually roll it out across the organization and also get management involved. Are there any suggestions of what people might be able to do to overcome that challenge?
Pay attention to the fundamental discipline. So, for example, I'm reading, my son is in 5th grade, and his particular assignment right now is something about the Revolutionary War here in the United States and a particular individual, Baron von Steuben, or Steuben, I believe would be the German pronunciation, somebody who is actually a Prussian general who came over and spent time training the American revolutionary troops, really training them how to do things, the fundamental disciplines of warfare. And there's a great book out there, it's called The Drill Master of Valley Forge. And I think our Scrum Masters need to be a little bit of a drill master, if you will. And what he taught the troops to do is to be clean. So cleanliness was a particular factor. They had the latrines and the tents in the same area. He separated that. And he trained them how to load the guns and just the fundamental the disciplines of cleaning their rifles and loading them and going through the basic things, practicing them, but also explaining why they're doing it. If we pay attention to those fundamental practices and do them well, even if it's simple as the daily stand-up, the retrospective, the sprint planning, and the backlog, then we can address some of the discipline. The key thing is not to scale too quickly. The problem comes when we scale too quickly and we try to sort of do rush out a number of actual projects. If we can, team by team, each war, if you will, is fought, a battle at a time. Let's get one team, let's focus on them, let's get them to learn their fundamental discipline, move to the next team. And if we can pay them that, pay each team, give them the undivided attention to learn so that they can learn how to do things well and appropriately and quickly, then we can scale without problems.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're suggesting is rather than going for the big bang approach that lots of companies go for, what really we should be doing is taking some incremental steps, iteratively reviewing what's working, and then little by little rolling it out as opposed to trying to do it all at once.
Completely, absolutely right. We don't want the big bang approach. You don't want to go from 0 to 100 projects over the 6 months or so. What you want to do is to take what we call a conquer and divide approach. Let's get a few teams, let's get them up and running, and then we've conquered that, and now we can divide and get more teams up and running. So more of an incremental, phased rollout and adoption.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm sure that's going to be quite valuable advice to a lot of people watching out there. Now, you spoke before about business agility. So lean startup is getting very big. Eric Rice's work, Steve Blank's work, I'm a great follower of what they're doing right there. Do you want to speak a little bit more about that and why you think that's really relevant or valuable at this moment in time, especially in the current economy?
Absolutely. One thing that the whole lean startup movement has done is to really regenerate an enthusiasm and excitement around entrepreneurship, right? So it's the me Inc., if you will. I can if you're an individual, I can start my own business. Whether I'm selling sandwiches out of my basement or cupcakes out of my wife's basement or whatever it is. Everybody can start. This confidence that people are starting to have in an era where we're dealing with larger macroeconomic forces like a recession, prolonged recession. Still stubbornly high unemployment and such. So at least in a certain segment of the economy, for people who have education and some skills that can translate into creating businesses and businesses that scale, the whole lean startup movement has been very instructive. I think for us in the Agile community there's definitely a huge value add if we start to look at how can we adopt many of the lean startup principles and integrate them or blend them into our Agile teams. If you look at the work of Eric Ries or Steve Blank, they always talk about the build, measure, learn cycle on the lean startup side, and then they mention XP as the delivery engine. But they don't spend a lot of time talking about XP and how you deliver with XP, XP being extreme programming, of course. So to a certain extent, what we need to do for us in the Agile community, what I think we can do is we can say, well, here's XP or Scrum, here's our delivery engine, we have the lean startup cycle over here. Now, how can we bring these two things together? Now, personally, what we do at Lightspeed and when we work with our clients, is that we advocate something that we call dual track development. Okay. So we're doing ongoing discovery, feature discovery using lean startup, and in parallel or on a dual parallel track, if you will, we're doing Agile delivery. And we found a way to blend that very seamlessly. The person that helps the most is the product owner. Okay. Because if you think about a Scrum product owner, he or she is generally looked up to as being the single source of the wellspring, if you will, of requirements, generating user stories and such. But many of the stories that are there in that product backlog have not been validated or invalidated by end users. So what Lean Startup gives us is a way, sort of a systematic, cyclical process, the build, measure, learn process, to take that initial backlog, take it out to the market, and experiment on that, get out of the building. The Lean Startup adage is get out of the building, go to your customers.
No facts in the building.
Go out to the end customers and check that. So let's take our product backlog and let's go out of the building and let's experiment. Let's validate the user stories over there. Let's see if some of them are okay, and let's see some of them which we need to kill.
The interesting thing that I find about the Lean Startup, maybe you'd be able to speak to this as well, is that smaller companies, by the fact the entrepreneurship type companies, by the fact of their size, the fact they don't have all the bureaucracy and the hierarchy associated with large companies, are able to, in a better position to be able to respond quickly to things, i.e. new opportunities, or to be able to create change. And obviously, a lot of them seem to be grasping the concept of the minimum viable product a lot easier and a lot quicker than the larger organizations. Do you think that therefore we're going to, or for me, I would say that means that there's a greater need for large companies to become agile as well, to become, if we're not even looking at agile in terms of software development, but agility, business agility, to have that agility. Whilst as we're seeing right now with the technology that's out there, the barriers to entry being much lower, a lot of these small companies potentially can become a threat. Yeah, easily. What do you think to that?
It's something that is really near and dear to my heart, because it's so near and dear to my heart that I went out and started a meetup in the Washington, D.C. area, which is called Lean Startup in the Enterprise. Because,
Isn't that a coincidence? I've got one in London called the Lean Startup London.
Lean Startup London. So there's a Lean Startup group, and it's very active. There's a Lean Startup DC group that's very active, but a lot of the folks who come there are from startups. And I think there's a particular segment of our industry, which is large organizations that don't operate like startups. I mean, we can certainly look to entrepreneurs, people who are trying to run smaller startups, if you will, within a larger company like a Skunkworks or so. But it's not enough to be a Skunkworks and do it under the radar. What large companies should realize is that if they can foster innovation and entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship within their organizations, that's of huge value. Because one advantage that large companies have that small companies don't is scale. If you can get, let's say, 20 small businesses innovating and doing systematic, disciplined lean startup experimentation, and then connect those together, you get the network effect. So you have large organizations like GE, Capital One, and others, and who are starting to try to drive this innovative entrepreneurship using lean startup within the larger enterprise.
Interesting. So seems like there's a lot to look forward to in the future in terms of how things are developing, not just in our industry, but how it's also spreading outside of it. So you shared a lot of very valuable information, and for some of the people who are watching it right now, how can they find out a bit more about what you do, maybe get access to some of your services, whatever? Do you have any website or email details, Twitter, whatever that you might want to share?
Absolutely. So on Twitter, I'm S Augustine. So S for my first initial Sanjiv and last name Augustine. So S Augustine is my Twitter handle. I have a personal website, sanjivaugustine.com. That's SANJIV, Augustine, one word.com. Or you can go to my company website, which is Lightspeed LLC, or lightspeed.com, L-I-T-H-E, speed, S-P-E-E-D.com.
Cool.
So, or you can just Google Sanjiv Augustine.
No problem. And we'll put all those links and that contact information underneath this video. So if you look underneath it, you'll be able to find that right there. So, Sanjiv, it's been a pleasure. Really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ade. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Ade Shakoya, Agile TV, at the Agile Development Better Software Conference East 2013 in Boston. See you on the other side.